Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are in the world watching live on YouTube. This is the Model 3 Owners Club show, episode 2, and we're May 17th, and we got an exciting show for everybody. Hope you're able to tune in, and later on you'll be able to watch this live on our YouTube channel. And we're still working out the details to get this out in a podcast format, so you just have to bear with us, and eventually you'll be able to get that in your live feeds. So we got so much to talk about tonight, so we're going to bring in our two guests tonight, our regulars, Eric Camacho and Michael Bodner. So gentlemen, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in as usual. And Ian is our other regular, but however, he's down in South Carolina riding his motorcycle. He's doing the Tail of the Dragon. Unfortunately, he could not reach us tonight. I was trying to get him on a cell phone, but it's just not working with Skype tonight. So we'll just have to do it this ways. We'll fix it in the mix, as they say. So without getting into too much stuff, boy, the big news this week that really broke. Model 3 Performance. Yay! It's finally coming soon. Now, of course, we're recording this on a Thursday, and Elon did say, that we're looking at, later in the week. So the chances are this thing might come out tomorrow, maybe even on the weekend and stuff. That's, of course, Elon time. You never know what's going to happen. So, right. So who wants to take the helm on this one here and start talking about what you think is going to be happening here? Eric, why don't you start first then? Yeah, that's a good point. Mike, any comments on the production on the performance thing that's going to be happening? Yeah, that's a good point. Some people in the chat here are saying they're having some difficulties with the sound. You know what? Let's just see if I can just fix this real quick, guys. I apologize for this. We're using some new software. I told you before that we might have some little issues, little glitches and stuff. So we're trying to. There we go. That should fix. I believe that should fix the problem for most people. Just give me one more second, folks. And I want to turn this off and that. Yes. Sorry, folks. We're we're learning as we go. There we go. So if we do that now we should have Eric. You know what? I'll bring the two boys in, and then I'll do a quick test there. Can't hear the guests. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, so hopefully I got this right. No sound. I can hear you clicking. Yes, I'm sorry, folks. Yeah. It's almost like I almost want to start over, but anyways, we'll just see what we get. I mean, we are putting out the audio, of course, and it will get recorded as we go here. So, can you guys just do a quick line test here so I can make sure that I got both of you on audio?
Sure.
Yep.
How does that sound?
Yes. Brad Murrin says it's all good. So yeah, I think we got it fixed there.
All
right. Apologize for that, folks. We will. I'm going to save this session so I don't screw it up for next time. Apologize for that. New software. You know how it goes, right? Okay. Right. So getting back to our discussion here, the issue of the Performance Model 3. So obviously we're looking at potentially a larger motor in the back of the car. Some other options like, what did they say? The white seats looks like it might happen, even though he said, well, we weren't too sure. There was some different interpretations of that. So I think, we're going to be looking at definitely some more options as far as that's concerned. Again, still no indication of the base battery pack. I think that's a little bit later. Now, however, my feeling is that since production seems to be really increasing, and we'll talk about that here as our second point going forward, that we may end up seeing the base battery a little sooner than what Tesla's predicted in the past or what they put on the estimator. Any particular thoughts on that, guys?
I'll jump in there. I definitely think so as we segue into speaking about production volumes picking up. Just to go back to performance and dual motor, that's a good sign for standard battery as well. The more configurations they throw into the mix, the more comfort they have with the production line and ratcheting things up. I think that's only a positive for standard battery happening sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The other thing, too, is I think, it's kind of been leaked a little bit, of course, because Franz von Holzhausen's been driving around a Model 3, and all indications show that it's definitely a performance car, is that we're going to get, I hope, Tesla being Tesla, that we're going to get the red letters, the Tesla spaced out like they did on the Roadster instead of just the T symbol. I think that would look really, really sharp. I think there's a company out there, Abstract Ocean, just tweeted out a picture where they have those appliques. So if those of you that want to debadge the car and put that on, hey, knock yourself out. That would be pretty cool. I think that would be pretty neat. So anyways, speaking about that, I think we can really get into, it looks like production is exceeding, 4,000 cars a week? Over 4,000 cars a week now, which is really encouraging because we're like this close to getting to 5,000. So they say they want to get there to 5,000 by the end of June, I think it was. And then they're hoping to get a sustained rate sometime in the next few months up to 6,000. So, Tesla's been relatively quiet about the situation about getting to 10,000. But, when you're at 6 and you got, another 4, it shouldn't be too much longer before we actually see that full production. Yeah, I'm really encouraged. The production thing is looking quite encouraging now. It seems like they got past some of their bottlenecks, and really increasing some of that production stuff. Speaking of which, Model 3 deliveries started in Canada. So, yeah. I was there on site, at least in Ontario. I got to witness the very first one, and there was a lot of excitement. Unfortunately, Tesla didn't let me video the whole thing, so being as it was, I had better luck videoing outside. But anyways, to make a long story short, a lot of excitement. The employees were all clapping. It was a pretty neat deal. I just had to go down there for service on my Model X to make an appointment for something minor, and they certainly have a number of them on the lot now. So deliveries are happening in dribs and drabs right now at the delivery centers, but they're going to be moving to the International Center sometime in the first week of June. So they're expecting much larger deliveries at that point. There's trucks coming in daily. So right now they're just spooling things up. And I know on the Facebook group, some people have been asking, well, why don't they just do everything at the International Center? There's just not enough volume yet to warrant leasing that place out because it's a pretty large establishment to get that. So very encouraging. I was just in Montreal last weekend too, and I met up with some people down there, and they're starting to get VINs now. So everybody's getting pretty excited about that whole thing. So it's looking really good. Part of the thing though too, we have to remember, and I know that a lot of people in the U.S. have been complaining because they haven't been getting VINs, and you have to remember, and I think we talked about this on the last episode, that Tesla is doing everybody a solid on this. What they're trying to do here is staunch that 200,000th delivery on the cars, right? And by doing that, and shifting more deliveries to Ontario, that does two things. First of all, it pretty much guarantees everybody a $7,500 credit, at least for the first quarter or two, and I forget what the numbers are, in the U.S. once they hit that 200,000th delivery. And for us, we've also been hearing through the grapevine that because of our upcoming election, where the new potential political party coming into power that want to get rid of all the incentives, Tesla's trying to deliver as many cars as they can in Ontario so people can actually claim that full $14,000 rebate. So they're trying to do everybody a solid as much as they can. So that garners some pretty goodwill, right? So pretty excited about that. Anyhow, let's see here. What else have we got to talk about? Model 3. best-selling sedan in the U.S. pretty soon. According to Elon, anyways. The guys at Inside EVs have been tracking this quite a lot as far as deliveries are concerned. And I think at least for the foreseeable future, certainly well into June and beyond, Model 3 is just going to kill everything else. That's just my feeling anyways. Whether that's sustainable long-term, I don't know. There's just so much pent-up demand for this car right now that it doesn't surprise me that we're going to be doing a lot of sales and stuff on that. I know that, Eric, you came from a Honda Fit. Right? And Michael, what did you have before?
The Hyundai Sonata.
Yeah, okay. I was having a discussion with someone last week on a podcast, and they basically said, well, the Model 3 is really positioned at the BMW 3 Series and stuff, so those are the people that are shopping that car. And I know for a fact that that's not true. I know a lot of people, including both of you, are not coming from that same caliber of car. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's doing that. I'm just saying that there are a certain portion of people that are coming and cross-shopping, but there's a considerable amount of people that are looking at getting into a Model 3 because of the fuel savings and stuff. Of course, gas prices just keep going up and up and up. So they're starting to factor that into the cost of the total cost of ownership of the car. So that's why I'm seeing a definite shift from the low to mid-range into the premium sedan market. Of course, Tesla calls this a premium sedan. Thank you very much. They seem to have lost the moniker of mass market or mass market. That's what they call it. It's not mass market. It's mass volume for Tesla, right? So that's quite encouraging. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, Trevor.
Well,
go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, please. All right. So my thought on that is really twofold. The first part is that with the tax incentive, some folks in their minds are already saying, well, if the car is going to be maxed out at, say, $60,000 after taxes, I know I'm going to get about $7,500, give or take, back my refund in 2019, which sort of lowers the value of the car to closer to about $52,000, $53,000. And then when you add in the gas savings of the car, then you're talking maybe now into the upper 40s after several years of ownership. So for many folks who are looking at, in the case of Hyundai Sonata, as Michael was talking about, that car, you're talking about upper 20s, maybe low 30s, depending upon your features and customizations. So for a few $1,000s more, now you're entering in, after all of the savings and the tax incentive, now a vehicle that might be affordable for a lot of families. And, if you're looking at comparisons of performance of vehicles, we can look at BMW i3 Series and others. But I think in terms of total cost, it's a matter of just, it's the minuses that eventually gets down to what is the final number. And that's where people, I think, are making their comparisons 5 years down the road, per se.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's still early days. We haven't reached cost parity. Right, so if you're cross-shopping with gasoline cars, the cost of entry is still high. But once you factor in the total cost of ownership, at least initially, it's certainly cheaper. Now, in a few years' time, of course, when there's more competition on the market and the cars get cheaper and stuff, then it's basically a no-brainer. I mean, you would just be crazy not to buy an electric vehicle compared, tax credit or not. It's still early days. The thing is that, and I try to remember to tell people that a tax credit or a rebate or whatever as an incentive is not a reward. It's not to say, oh, good for you, here's some money for you. It's really, it's an incentive to get you to look at something that you wouldn't normally otherwise look at because of the cost factor. I mean, I'll give you an example. Here in Ontario, a number of years ago, the government wanted us to switch to CFL light bulbs, for better or for worse. Just putting it out there, that they were giving everybody a $5 rebate because at the time, the light bulbs were more expensive. Of course, now we switched to LEDs and situations repeated itself. But now you can go to the dollar store and buy, LED light bulbs for your house, and of course the rebates are no longer required. So, electric vehicles are largely the same way. The incentives are there just to get the ball rolling, and then once the cost, of course, in the mass market with the batteries getting cheaper and stuff, you just don't need the incentive. Right away. So I know that these are still early days and everybody's still counting on the rebates. I get that, and that's good. I mean, I did too. I mean, let's not be let's not be fools about it, right? So but it's encouraging, and unfortunately, sometimes politics gets involved and stuff, and they have different agendas and stuff. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So okay, let's see here. What else?
Oh, Trevor, I was just going to add.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So my car is officially 99 days old. I was.
I remember you had sent me the statistics, so everybody pay attention to this.
Yeah.
This is a big deal.
Right. I'm going to try to read out some of these. I might do my own little tiny video on this, try to put together something that looks better than a spreadsheet. We'll see. But in 99 days, I've driven just over 5,700 miles, on pace for 21,000 in the year. That's more than what I used to drive. This has become the only car we drive on the weekend. So it's piled on the miles. My wife's car doesn't move anymore on the weekend. Anyway, in 99 days, I've spent $160.35 on electricity at home. At the current electric rates here in Florida, I don't have solar. And if I had my Hyundai Sonata, getting about 25 miles per gallon, and that's being fair, I usually got lower than that. At the current gas prices of $2.85 per gallon here, I would have spent $653.57 on gas.
Wow.
In 1 year, I saved $1,818. In 5 years, over $9,000. So you take what I had, which was a $33,000 car. Now I've got a $56,000 car, but throw $9,000 in the middle, plus the $7,500 tax credit, which I was fortunate enough to get on this. And then all the maintenance that we'll factor in over time, and we'll see. But realistically, the more I drive, the cheaper this car becomes as compared to the ICE car place. So it's really exciting to see that. And I'm just going to keep watching this. And as maybe I take my foot off that right pedal a little bit more, those numbers should even improve more.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I tell people. I mean, the more you drive an EV, the cheaper it gets. Right. And I find myself, I've had my car for 5 months now. So it'll be 6 months on the 18th of next month. I've put, let's see here, 16,000 kilometers on it. I don't know how many miles that is. That's 9,600 miles or something like that. And I've saved a bundle of money because gas is more expensive here, of course. We're hitting, $1.40 a liter. That's, I'm not good at the math right now. If I had paper, I'd write it down. But it's just, and, some of the people are predicting that we're going to see $2 a liter next year, which is just insane. That's over $6 a gallon. So, yeah. And it's funny though, too, because I want to make a point about this is, and we've seen this many times before, is that history is kind of repeating itself. When the economy tanked in 2008, people stopped buying SUVs. And they went and bought economy cars. And of course, GM was caught flat-footed. They didn't have anything to offer, of course. So that kind of contributed to some of their woes as far as the bankruptcy is concerned. And I feel that this recent news, and I hate to, kind of diverge a little bit here, but the situation with Ford saying that we're only going to keep the Mustang and, and we're going to do SUVs and trucks, the timing couldn't be worse. Especially if you don't have anything to offer in terms of EVs and stuff. So, gas prices are not getting any cheaper in the U.S. either. So, these gas prices keep going up, and then the buying habits are going to change again. And people are going to start getting rid of SUVs, and they're going to start going to, EVs and smaller cars just to kind of get around this, the hike in the gas prices, right? So I feel for Ford, I feel bad in the sense that I hope they can survive this crunch, or maybe it's a little bit premature. Any thoughts on that?
I agree. It's the first thought that came to mind when hearing about the prices of fuel in Canada. Here in the U.S. we sell obviously gas per gallon, and in Canada it's by the liter. And when people hear the prices at first without the measurement attached to it, they're like, oh, it's not much more expensive in Canada. And they go, yeah, but that's per liter. And then their heads go, what?
It's 3.78 liters to the gallon.
Right. So it is insanely expensive right now. And as you said, it's expected to rise pretty high over the course of the summer and then even higher into the following year. And we expect in the U.S. to also see gas prices increase over summer. So these fluctuations continue to happen. But, it's been some time now since we've seen gas in the U.S. Maybe just below $2 per gallon. It's been above $2 a gallon for quite some time now. And when you're driving an internal combustion vehicle and you're looking at the efficiency you're getting per gallon, the age of your vehicle, obviously as your vehicle gets older, your fuel efficiency begins to decrease. So there's a lot of factors at play here. And when Ford's basically saying is, listen, we're content getting rid of our sedans. We're fine getting rid of our cars. We're going to focus on our fleet of trucks. And granted, they do well selling trucks, but we also know that trucks tend to be a not very fuel efficient vehicle. So if gas prices continue going up, and really when you're looking at obviously all the different manufacturers that are out there, and you're looking to Ford for reliability in their trucks, you're going to find it, but you're also going to have a vehicle that over time is going to cost you a lot in maintenance, in parts, in gasoline usage. So all of that. And, for people who are looking at EVs, the question they always come down to is, but I can get to a gas station, I'm in and out in 5 or 10 minutes. Can't be the same thing with an EV. I'm like, right, but you also don't fuel your car while you're sleeping in a gas vehicle. You can do that in an electric vehicle. So it's trying to get them to understand that there are things you can do to compare them, but you just can't be the value of an EV at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just it's frustrating, to see such a great car and great technology and stuff largely ignored by the masses, and it really takes education on the part and stuff. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that drive around, and Tesla owners generally are fairly accommodating to to show people the vehicles and stuff. Of course, you got to be careful because they are premium vehicles, so it kind of it sets the bar pretty high. So you always have to tell people, well, this is kind of like the high end and stuff. You don't have to go this. There are cheaper cars on the market, of course, but here are all the advantages X, Y, Z, and you go down the list and stuff. But the main clincher I found, of course, is the operational costs. Right? It's the gas. I mean, I spend less than $20 a month on electricity to charge my car. So when you start factoring that in, then for some people it's like, well, I can take that money that I save and put it into a better car. So there's your shoehorn into say a Model 3 or Bolt or something to largely to those effects. Okay. All right, enough talking about that.
I was going to say,
go ahead.
if I could follow up really quickly, didn't Plug and Drive just have their 1-year anniversary up in Ontario?
They most certainly did. Yeah, they just tweeted out. Plug and Drive, for those of you who don't know, is the first discovery center of its kind in the world, and it's funded by the Cap and Trade program here in Ontario, which is kind of a carbon tax, and they have a variety of different EVs on display. They have a Chevy Bolt and then in the Leaf and the i3 and and a Tesla on display and stuff. And people can come and actually test drive these vehicles and learn about them in a no pressure sales environment. Well, not even sales. It's a no pressure environment because they're not doing sales. They're an educational outlet. And I was talking to some of the people there, Kara, and she was saying that it's been a huge success. It's two parts. It's not only educating the public, but it's also getting the traditional dealers involved and teaching them about, where does the energy come from? How do you charge? What's the service angle? All these kind of things and stuff. So they've been very successful for that. Yes, and it's one of my favorite places to go because I know the people there. They're genuine, and like I said, it's the best place because it's no pressure. You can you want to go check out a Leaf? Well, the dealer's busy. We can go down there and do it for free. And works quite well. So if you're in the Toronto area, check it out.
Trevor,
I was saying, is that something like? Go ahead, Michael.
The last thing I wanted to say about the price of the car, the entry point. It's still premium. You mentioned being careful. I was just at the car show that was down here in Fort Lauderdale recently, and I was actually shocked when I went and sat in a Mustang, and I thought, it's a classic car. Obviously, it's an icon, but I thought I was going to break the car getting into it. And I get out of the car, and then I go over to Kia, and I saw the Stinger. And I have to say that really caught my eye. That was a beautiful car. Both of those cars had a sticker price of $52,000 US. Those were shocking numbers to me. I'm not saying the Model 3 is cheap by any means, but I think the other cars are really starting to creep up in price. When the Model 3 gets that standard battery out and the production volume up, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with at an entry price of $35,000. I really do think that.
I agree with you 100%. Like up here, because of our incentive potentially going away, that may stall sales of the high-end vehicle, but once the standard battery variant of the Model 3 arrives, even at $45,000, I mean, you can't buy... I went to the BMW dealership just to see what they have on the lot. Try to find a 320i. It's just not possible. They don't carry them. They all carry the souped up cars. They start at 58, 55. So, it's going to be a tough sell, I think, for a lot of people. So I think even without the incentive, the base price of a Model 3 is $45,000 here. It's a killer deal because once you factor in the gas savings and stuff, I mean, you'd be crazy not to look at it, right? So I think it's going to do exceptionally well. So right now it's still early days, but I'm still very encouraged about that. And that thing is just going to fly off the shelves. They won't be able to keep them on the lot. That's
and it still
sure.
has the Tesla DNA. So even if you don't get the souped up version, it still has that Tesla DNA built in.
Yeah,
so
you know what?
It's gonna be a fun
to
car
make
to drive.
Yeah, you know what? I want to make a point of that. I want you guys to make a point of that to some of the viewers. Of course, you guys are owners. I drive a slightly different car, but you have to understand, and unfortunately, a lot of the people out there still have not test driven or ridden in the car because Tesla is still not doing test drives on this car. And that's quite unfortunate. And I've talked to Tesla about it, and basically their line is, well, we'll get to it maybe later this year. If you're really desperate to pull the trigger and you won't do it until you actually test drive a car, find an owner. That's their line, which is fine. But I think because you guys are owners, you need to make sure that you let people know that the Tesla DNA is a real thing. And if you've driven an S or an X, that instant acceleration, the fun factor of the car is still present. And the one thing that I've noticed, of course, with driving the Model 3 compared to the other cars is just how nimble the car feels. It's like a go-kart, right? It's very direct steering. It's hella fun to drive. It's a great car.
Yeah. I mean, I've had my car now for 3 weeks tomorrow, and every time I get the car, it's just a relaxing feel. It's so much fun. I'm always discovering new things about the car every time I'm driving it. I'm always getting a lot of folks looking over in their cars like, is that a Model 3? So it's, it's still a catchy car because there's not a lot of them on the road, especially where Michael and I live here in South Florida. But again, it's a Tesla. And even with all the negative news that might happen from an accident or something else, people are still fascinated and enamored and curious about Tesla. So yeah, I know Michael's had his car now for almost 100 days, which, by the way, happy birthday tomorrow for 100. But yeah, there's something to be said about, for both of us, we get in our cars and we just love being in this car. If we have a short trip, we hate it because we want to be in the car for a lot longer.
Yeah, I find myself finding excuses to go for a drive, It's beautiful out, get the big windshield. I was downtown Toronto today looking at the skyscrapers. I was taking pictures. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I'll add to that. I've got some decent seat time in the Model S 75 as well. Great, fun car to drive, but Trev is right. The Model 3 is a go-kart. And I myself gravitate towards smaller cars. So I don't want to say the Model 3 is better or worse than the S or the X. It's different. But it's a spot on what Eric said. It's got the Tesla DNA. It really does. And I notice it every time I go out for lunch at work and I bring a coworker with me. They get in the passenger seat. I don't press the pedal down all the way, just a little bit. And the giddiness and the noises that I hear coming from the passenger seat, and I've got to keep looking forward. But I'm like, are you okay over there? Everyone just freaks out at that instant torque. It's a real Tesla. It is not any less of a Tesla, that's for sure.
Yeah, we call that the Tesla.
And these are not,
for a reason.
These are not performance cars. I mean, we're talking our long range batteries. We're doing 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, give or take. And it's not a performance car, but people hear that instant torque right as you push the pedal, and they're like, "Oh my god!" So imagine having a car that's a performance version. Imagine having ludicrous speed.
Yeah.
So I have yet to experience an S or an X with ludicrous. I can't imagine what that feels like right off the go. That's just incredible.
Yeah, the standard spiel I do when I take people for a ride in my Model X is I always prep them. I say, by the way, before we begin, this is the slowest car Tesla makes. Even the Model 3 is faster than this car. And I get the same reactions, right?
Your wife is more of the go-getter.
Yeah, she calls me old man. Oh, maybe that's what all this gray is for, right? Okay. Anyhow, I want to talk about one more thing, and then, you know what, we kind of missed it last week, but I want to open it up to some of the questions in the chat room. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, there's a little chat box there beside the live feed. Please throw in some questions here and, targeted at Michael and Eric, and then hopefully these two guys can answer, and maybe I can jump in too, depending on what the question is. The last thing I really want to talk about here before we kick off is this issue of some of the bumper paint. Now, for those of you who may not be aware, I'm going to bring up a picture here real quick. Just give me a second here to scale this so you can see what I'm talking about. There have been a few reports of specifically white Model 3s with yellowing rear bumpers. Not the front, just the rear. Now, some people, I've seen one guy on YouTube put out a video where he compares his Model 3 in the sunlight, and there seems to be, whether it's a trick of the light or whatever the case may be, I was at Tesla in Toronto today. They had one Model 3 sitting on the lot, and I made a point of looking at the bumper, and I didn't see any evidence of this. So I don't know what's going on. There is a Reddit thread, and at the end of the video, I'll put the link in the video description if you guys want to see this. Someone in Dallas, Texas, was saying that Tesla was holding back deliveries of the white Model 3s, specifically because of some of these issues at that location. I'm not saying worldwide or nationwide, whatever, because they want to repaint the bumpers. So that brings me to the question here of the improving, sort of the quality. This is a paint issue. Maybe it's just 2 or 3, whatever. But I'll tell you one thing. I was down at the service center today, and they had 3 Model 3s ready to be delivered, and I was like 6 inches away from the car, and I was looking at everything. The quality of these cars is amazing. They have learned so much. They've done such a great job on the car. Now, early cars, I've seen some early cars, and they were, a little rough in some places and stuff, but I've seen a marked improvement on these cars, even compared to the S and the X. The S and the X still have a lot of issues, but the Model 3, this is a different animal. They've put a lot more time, and it just seems like from some of the videos that I've seen online that they have more robotics for inspections than they did on the S and the X. From what I saw at the production line, you're not supposed to talk about a lot of this stuff, but there's a lot more manual labor involved in the S and the X. So, and I know you guys really, other than a few little small niggly issues at first, I know, Michael, you've had a couple of issues and stuff. Eric, have you, I forgot, did we talk about this last week? Did you really have anything?
We did. There were some minor issues. I haven't bothered to trying to get service on it yet because the car, of course, is just beautiful. But no, I plan at some point getting them looked at to see if they can make some minor adjustments.
I see. Okay. Well, I have to say, these cars, I looked at them real close. They're really good. So for those of you who are looking at taking delivery of a Model 3 and you haven't done so yet, I highly encourage, and this is just my personal opinion here, that you spend more time inspecting the car than going over orientation if you can. Like, let's face it, a lot of us here are in the forest. We know all about Tesla. We check out the YouTube videos and stuff. That's great. Please do that. Tesla has a series of videos where you can learn some of the basics of the car. So my personal opinion here is that most of your time should be spent on inspecting the car and making note of any kind of deficiencies or little things you need to fix and stuff, rather than taking an orientation. Part of the fun of having a new car is discovering some of the new stuff kind of, on your own, rather than let somebody take you by the hand. I'm not denigrating that some people need hand holding. That's great. There's been some talk on the forum, of course, and on the Facebook pages here in Canada. It's like people are like, they're so excited to get the car. It's like, I don't want the orientation, just give me the damn keys. I'm gone. I get that. But I do encourage people to really take some time and actually go over the cars and just note any deficiencies. So,
one thing I'd add to that, and I'm not telling people to show up at the delivery with a flashlight. I'm certainly not saying that. But the joy and beauty of getting an electric car is that delivery happens most likely inside, which is really nice. But you're not out in the sunlight. So you might see some things later. Trev was at my delivery, filmed the delivery of the car. We both did not see, and we walked the car with a fine-tooth comb. There were no panel gap issues, but there was a little paint defect on my trunk, just under the overhang. Basically, a shadow would be cast on it. You'd never see it unless you were shining a flashlight on it. So again, I'm not saying go with a flashlight. That didn't stop me from having fun with the car for 5,500 miles before I brought it in. And Tesla fixed the paint for free. I was without it for a couple of days and had a Model S loaner. So no big deal. No reason I wouldn't have, had I noticed it, I wouldn't have rejected the delivery. I would have taken the car after waiting 2 years anyway. Yeah. But just be mindful. You might see something a day later, 2 days later. Tesla's going to take care of it. So don't even worry about it if you catch it late. They absolutely stand by their work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Even the smallest little issue, I took my X in today. I've got a little tiny scratch on my windshield I couldn't tell if it was inside or outside or inside the glass, and they said, look, if it's a defect, we'll just change it. So anyways, we have to leave that for another day. But yeah, they bend over backwards, which is really great, and that's really appreciative. Rather than getting the brush off. I've had that happen with a dealer before, or like, it's not our fault. I'm like, really? Anyway.
If I can, I want to go back to the white paint conversation for a second. Uh-huh. There was a tweet I saw, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before, where a current Tesla owner had brought her vehicle into a paint shop, and the paint shop specialist had said, in examining the vehicle, this is some of the most incredibly well done paint I've seen on a car ever. So, we know there's some concerns, there's different car materials and, the plastics and the different paints being used. But from what, again, it's one person's opinion, but, this person was saying that of all the cars I've seen, all the cars I've touched, the paint job on Teslas are by far some of the best I've ever seen. So, Reddit users, you guys are fantastic, but what we're seeing in a few cars in Texas, of course, like you said, Trevor, is not necessarily the norm. And I think, other than a couple paint swirls on someone's thing, or as Michael pointed out on his trunk lid, it's, we're talking minor imperfections. But as our conversation last week we talked about with the breakdown for Monroe, we're seeing the dinosaur tech improve every single week. So by the time, we hit the 10,000 mark, I would imagine that the cars are pretty much coming out like top notch.
Yeah, I think the paint quality that Tesla uses is very good. It's applied very good, but you have to keep in mind California has some rather stringent environmental laws when it comes to paint. So my understanding is Tesla doesn't use as many VOCs in their paint. So what it does is it ends up being a little on the soft side, especially the clear coat. So, I know there's been a lot of discussions, of course, on the forums and online, of course, because I went through the whole process of putting paint protection film and all that stuff on the car. And for me, because I'm keeping the car, it's a lot of money. I just wanted to make sure to put that extra protection on there. And I'm glad I did, because I already have a couple of little rock chip dings on the front of the car that the paint protection film took the hit and not the paint. So I'm very glad for that. So in a few years, I can just peel it off and just put a new one on. Hopefully the paint underneath is really good. So I know it's an extra little budget that you have to do and stuff, but if you plan on keeping the car, and especially with these cars in the front where you've got a lot of plastic, of course, that could be damaged. Maybe not so much in Florida, but up here we use a lot of stuff on the roads in the wintertime. Sometimes it's gravel. It can really wreak havoc on the front of a car. And then S and X, because it's aluminum, won't rust, it'll corrode a little bit. On a Model 3, mostly the skins are aluminum and stuff, but you just never know. So if you budget, that's great, but Okay, so you know what? I think what we're going to do here is, some of you are watching live out on YouTube in the chat window. If you'd like to throw some questions at Michael or Eric, go ahead and do so. I have to wait a few seconds. There's a little bit of a delay here. So maybe we'll see if we can find somebody with a question here. I'm just looking through. We'll just wait for see if anybody out there in the chat room there just wants to throw a question at these guys. Go ahead.
Well, I do want to see, while we're waiting for questions,
sure.
For those of you guys that are tuning into the channel, thank you so much. Make sure you follow us. We're all on Twitter. We appreciate all the followers we've had in the last couple weeks with the new show. Again, we're getting all the kinks out with this as soon as we can, but we appreciate you guys watching live now. And if you're, of course, watching this as a rebroadcast later, thanks for watching. We hope you continue watching in the weeks ahead.
Well said, Eric. Thank you. Well, we got a question right here from Damien. Damien says, should I get XPEL Shield right away? Okay, so I'll answer this since I've had it done on my car. I highly recommend that you get it done as soon as possible. I took delivery of my Model X in December. I could not, because of scheduling and vacation stuff, I could not get it in until early February. And when we did the paint protection film on the front, I already had a small little rock chip underneath the headlight, and it shows black underneath because these bumpers are black, and then they're painted with whatever finish color that you have on the car. So if you're going to get paint protection film, don't delay. Get it done as soon as possible to prevent any of these rock chips from forming, because it's tough to fix after the fact. So that's my recommendation. Let's see here. Ben Dixon says, watt hour per kilometer or per mile. Any two you guys want to give us a rough idea? Of course, you're in the warmer weather here in Florida, so what do you any opinions on that? What are you guys seeing?
I'm averaging about 254 kilowatts per hour.
See, I'm stepping on the pedal too hard. I'm at 260 right now.
I average, well, of course, I'm in kilometers, so the measurement's a little different. In the summertime right now, I'm seeing around the 200 range per kilometer. Of course, it's a Model X. It weighs a lot more, and it's a pig. In the winter months, I've seen as high as 350, 400. Now, I just put my 22-inch turbine wheels on there, and I've definitely seen an increase in watt hours per kilometer, about 20% more. So On a really good day like today, I was getting 200, but I average on when I came back from Montreal, it was around 250. So it's not quite winter. It's not winter, but it's not as efficient as I was hoping it to be.
I've got to say, I love the miles per gallon equivalent measure. I think that's really where it kind of sticks it to the ICE car.
Yes.
My car's number is 130 miles per gallon equivalent right now.
Mm-hmm.
That really helps when you're thinking in terms of what does a gas car get versus what does an EV car do at the same time.
Okay. Well, let's have a look here. We have another question. Let me see here. And I can't pronounce your name here. It's probably a short name. Emmy Sichez says, "Hey, Trevor, between a Performance Model 3 and a Model S 100D, what would you get? They may be less than 10K apart." Well, I don't know about 10K apart. The 100D here in Ontario is a $20,000 premium over the 75, so it's pretty expensive. There's going to be a wide gap between, say, Performance Model 3 and the Model S Performance because they're different motors, different technologies, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I think I would go for a Model 3 Performance over a Model S. Ludicrous is a different animal altogether, of course, because that's just too violent for my taste, but that's just me. If the cost delta was around 10 to 15, which I think the Performance model may come in at, I'd like the Model 3, but it's, I don't know. We'll have to see. Once you drive it, maybe you get a different opinion. Okay, let's see here. What else can we do? I really should have put my...
And think of it in terms of cars you already know and you've already seen. They're two completely different cars. Would you take a BMW M3 or M4 over a 7 Series BMW? It's most likely a completely different target audience, and this will probably fall into the same category. You've got a small, fast sedan or kind of the bigger, slower, I'm going to go for a long-distance car.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, just a correction. And Emicias just says it's Emiliano. So thank you very much for correcting me on that. Okay. I just saw one go by here. My friend Matt Abadia. He says, have any of you done a Chatamo charge on your Model 3? And we know what the answer is.
That's a no for me.
Nope.
I haven't.
No. The Chatamo adapter has yet to be enabled for the Model 3. We don't know what the situation is. We know that Tesla was testing the Chatamo adapter last year in the release candidate phase, but yet they've yet to enable it for the Model 3. So right now, if your supercharger is your only option for fast DC charging on the Model 3 until they do some kind of update. Now, whether they update the car's firmware or the Chatamo firmware, we don't know. The Chatamo right now, the adapter only works on the S and the X. So I hope that answers your question there, Matt. But we all have our fingers crossed for that because it's a good safety net to have, right? Okay, let's go down here and see what else. Wow, I'm getting questions for me. It's not fair. Ask the guys. Oh, yeah. Marcellus says, do you always carry your key card, valet card with you?
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I have it on me right now because I always carry it around because you just never know.
There you go.
So I've been pretty fortunate so far. I've never had an issue with my phone not connecting to the car via Bluetooth or with the technology. But sometimes the app takes a while to wake up. So if I'm trying to get the app to run and something's weird's happening and I'm like, I have to go because we've had Florida rain for the better part of the last week, I can quickly take my card, swipe the B pillar, and I can get in my car without having to wait for the phone. So it's inconvenient to have, but if your phone dies, if the car is unresponsive, if the app isn't working right, the card is a definite escape for you no matter what.
Have either of you asked Tesla what the cost of a replacement key card is? My understanding it's like $5.
Yeah, the word on the forum is $10 for a pair.
Well, that's a pretty good deal. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll order
$500 for
cheaper than getting a fob for some other car.
Oh yeah, my key fob died on my Model X. I had to go and get it replaced right away, and they had to reprogram it. Yeah, I would hate to do that. Now there was, of course, a segue into what Elon's tweet was, of course, that they're going to do some kind of Bluetooth unlock on a phone on the S and X. So it won't be key card really, but we'll be able to do the same thing, approach the car with your phone. I'm really looking forward to that because she's not listening here, but wifey always forgets her key fobs. So if I can tie her phone to the car, that'll be a real big bonus. Sorry, Bev.
Yeah, I'll add the car key was my last key, so the move to the Model 3 meant no more keychain. I don't go anywhere without a wallet, so there's no reason not to have this paper-thin credit card in my wallet just hanging out. I've had a 99% success ratio with the phone as a key. I've seen on the forums, Android has not been as stable, so be mindful of that. If you've got an Android, it's not 100% yet. I had one situation where I got in the car, and I was early somewhere, and I was just kind of hanging out in the car, and I guess it sensed, put me in park, and kind of stopped or turned off, if you will. When it turned back on, because I didn't leave the car, leave the Bluetooth field and get back, the car got confused, and it wanted that key card. And it would not let me put it back in drive without the key card. So I'd say absolutely keep it on you. And it's really, you probably have a wallet with you. You can get rid of your keys, hopefully, but if you're going to have a wallet anyway, just keep it. It's worth it.
Okay.
And you also never know if you're going to go to a place where you have to valet your vehicle. We have some places here in South Florida where you have no choice but valet your car. You can't self-park unless you want to park several blocks out of the way. So if you all of a sudden have come across valet and you have to do it, you want to have that car on you at all times.
Don't make the mistake that I did when I was testing. I was testing the Model 3 last year with Ken, where we put it in valet mode, and we went to the restaurant and came back out. And we forgot to take it out of valet mode, and we were all like freaking out.
No,
we were like, "Where'd the performance go?" Oh, we had a good laugh over that one. That didn't make it into the video, but we were killing ourselves.
Like it's funny now, but in the moment you're like, "Oh my god, what do we do?"
We're like, we broke the car. We broke the car. And then I saw on the screen it said valet, and I went, I should have had a V8. That was crazy.
Well, here's the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who left it in there? Was it your fault or was it Ken's fault?
It was my fault. Well,
all right.
I put it in valet mode. We went to dinner. Ken drove the car, and he was like, "Where'd the performance go? You guys were having fun. Where's my fun?" And then I was poking around on the screen, and I saw valet, and I went, there's your problem. So we had to fix that. All right, question here. This is a real easy one. Hockey Day says, do you only get one key card on delivery?
You get two.
You get two. And like I said, it's only $10 for two more, so give them another $10, and then you have some spares, right?
We have a fun thread going, actually, on Trevor's forum. We have a science
it's
teacher,
everybody's forum. It's not just
mine. She's been playing around with taking apart the key card and trying to get the bits inside to go into a traditional fob, kind of playing around with some things with that. So they're cheap. You can have some fun with them. I have not taken mine apart yet, but maybe we'll do that.
Okay, we'll do two more questions here, and then we'll sign off. There's a question here from Garland that says, guys, if there's a single option that you didn't get, what would that option be? It can be a non-Tesla option. What would you really like to see in the car?
Wow.
I know what Michael's going to say. He's going to show us here in a second.
I don't even know. I guess I could show you because I'm sitting in the car.
You're not supposed to talk about it, but you can show us. Right? Okay, Michael, go first.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the... Thank you, Trev. I've got two, actually. So
Okay.
I'll start with the easier one. One is a grab handle. I wish Teslas had grab handles.
Yeah, I agree.
Not a
with
deal
you.
breaker. Certainly not. I bought the car, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything, but I wish it had a grab handle. Number two, and there's a remedy for it, or at least it's hitting the market basically right now, and that's wireless charging for the phone. I was fortunate enough to get in as kind of an early beta tester with the Jetta wireless pad. They've asked me not to share any feedback, good or bad, or take any pictures of it, and I'm definitely going to hold true to that. But I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying you're going to want that product. So happy to say that for them, and that takes care of wireless charging for your
Easiest
for your
$100 you
iPhone,
can spend,
for your-
right? Best $100 you can spend?
100%.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad to hear that. How
Yeah.
about you, Eric?
You know what? I kind of also agree with that with the wireless charging because I have an iPhone 8, so the ability to just kind of set it and let it do its thing would be great. But also, I think it'd be great if we had self-presenting handles because there are times where your hands are somewhat full. I quickly adapted to how to open that handle like 4 different ways on the car, both driver and passenger side. But I think there are some people who would just like to be able to just kind of reach their hand in and pull it like the S does. But that would be pretty cool if that was an option.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, out of all the cars, I like what they did on the Model X being a push button thing. Although I have to always tell people, you gotta push the button. You can't just tap it, right? Because everybody thinks it's like touch sensitive. It's not. But it comes with its own set of complications, of course, because now you got to have actuators in the doors. That's a different animal altogether. But I think, from a reliability standpoint, if you were to compare the S and the 3, the Model 3 is hand down way better because those Model S door handles break all the time. I have one friend of mine here who's had 8 of them. over the course of, so they've been very problematic, and Tesla knows this. So that's one of the reasons, of course, they went with the simpler door handle situation on the Model 3. So, yeah.
Now, I do want to add, I was very happy because the one thing I was torn on was the 18 or 19-inch wheels when I was looking for my order.
Yeah.
But I went with the 18s because I'm like, it's not the look, because the look I think is fine, but it's more of the extra efficiency.
Yes.
Michael talked earlier about trying to ease off the accelerator a little bit more to kind of get more of that regen braking energy back into the car. But for me, it was also the added bonus of getting at least a 5% back, or the extra mileage on having the aero covers. So and I've left them on the car, and people are like, it's still a good looking car. So I like it.
We're getting a lot of questions now, but we really have to cut it off soon. We'll do one more. This is one I think is really good here. David C. Jolly says, how accurate is the trip planner in terms of percentage left in the battery? Michael, you did a really long road trip, didn't you, recently?
Yep, I did just shy of 450 miles. And my answer is an unfortunate one. It depends.
Yes.
It's all about the speed you're going and the conditions around you. Is it windy? Is it raining? Are you going too fast, too slow? Stop and go. Do you get that regen effect? So what I can tell you is when I was doing about exactly 77 miles an hour with autopilot on the highway, with the 19-inch wheels, I got about 83% of the range. So I lost 17% at that point. When I dropped down to 55 on a different stretch of road and had a little bit of stop and go mixed in, I got 100% of the range. So your estimate on where you're going to be will also have an effect on how fast you're going and all the conditions around you. So I hope that helps. I know it's a little bit of it depends. I hate to answer that way, but definitely depends.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, I know my car now, so when it puts in an estimate in there, I know that I'm within 3% of the rated range and stuff. But that just comes from being familiar with the car. So everybody's going to have a different experience based on how you drive and the conditions. So, but I have found that the trip planner's pretty darn accurate in most cases and stuff. But you got to leave yourself a little bit of a margin. It's not like a 50% margin, but it's pretty reliable that way. So. Anyhow, go ahead, Eric.
At worst, I've had maybe a 5 to 7% difference between what the actual number was versus what was planned on the trip when I started it. But again, it's all based on driving conditions, if the AC's running, that wipers are on, that sort of thing. But I've had no worse than about 5 to 7% off from when it started to when I finished.
Yeah, that's good to know. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to call it a night for everybody. So keep the questions coming, folks, for the next show when we do it next week. Let's try and get the questions a little bit earlier so I don't have to prod you. And then that way we can get more questions answered for the next time. So before we sign off, Eric, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter at ECFix. That's ECFIX on Twitter.
And Michael, how about you? Give yourself a plug.
Find me in two places. One is on Twitter as well, at Michael R. Bodner. And like Eric, you'll probably find me all over Trev's posts, so real easy to find us. And on the Model 3 Owners Club forum, I am SoFla Model 3.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, guys. Well, as usual, thanks for the two guests for joining us on the show tonight, and we really appreciate for those of you who are tuning in each and every week. We're going to do this on a regular basis here on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be 5 p.m. Pacific Time, because I know we got a lot of the listeners on the California, of course. And so we'll leave it at that. You can find me on Twitter. I'm very active there. The handle's at Model 3 Owners. And don't forget to check out our forum at model3ownersclub.com. And if you like the show, we'd really appreciate it if you take a look at our Patreon page. You can find that at patreon.com/Model 3 Owners Club. All the supporters help keep this going. Anyways, that's it for tonight. And we will catch you next week, folks. And thanks for watching.